Hello, and welcome back to my GTNH playthrough. It is September 24th. Today, just started off the day with some buttoning up of my bee processing. As we left off yesterday, I did not have these electrolyzers completed. I didn't end up crafting them all, at least earlier while I was still messing around with it, because I was still waiting for my molten silicone to back up. I did go ahead and get that done, and I'll show that off here in a minute. I've long since had these crafted, but I haven't come back to set anything up in here. Basically, my approach has kind of been come over to one of these terminals and see what stuff is kind of backing up crazy. For example, like I'm sure I still have a bunch. Is it slag? I'm actually completely caught up with the slag, which is crazy because had I gone into here last night when I recorded the video, there was nearly 250,000 of those combs in the system, so it's kind of crazy that this can keep up with that. I did end up throwing stuff on at least every one of these centrifuges, and then just as like I said, I was saying, I was going through here picking out things that I really should get on processing. Like, maybe I should get this rare earth. I know some of the, like this chrome, I have a lot of chrome, but at some point I'll go through, probably over the weekend, and kind of fully finish out putting everything and making sure every comb is being processed so there's no weird backups. But for the moment, I'm pretty sure I have everything that I'm actively using. And then just one thing to kind of show. So as I was talking about yesterday, for like turning on and off the multi-blocks, I kept using OR gates because I was having problems with these level emitters. But it seems to be they have problems when it's on the side, because when I do this kind of setup where it's on top of it, it works exactly as you'd expect. So like if I remove this wire over and turn this on, it just won't light up. So I kind of got this impression that I needed to use the gates, but that's not actually the case. And then, like in some of these spots where I already set them up, I just have them left. There's no reason, like I don't need these gates for anything, not hurting anything doing it this way. But for the other processes as I went, like this one, I did this, although the only reason this one's kind of got a goofy zag is because the wire being over the water hatch made it so it didn't turn on. This particular LCR was one I forgot to set up yesterday, till I noticed later I was out of some sodium hydroxide dust, and that's what this guy is setting up. And then if the level drops below 4,000, it'll keep crafting. And I do have a decent amount of those utilized, mainly over here, because we use salt for so many things, so I don't want it burning through all my salt. So if the salt ever drops below those levels, these guys all shut off, because these really quickly took care of the amount of salt I had in the system. Like I started off the day with 80,000 salt, and now, as you can see by this not being on, I have less than 4. And these have been off for a while. A kind of little fun note, not really. I'm not going to be doing anything with magic for a while, but I did manage to get all the different types of erythral essence from this. So at some point, whenever I go back to this, I can set up the final 5 Bs. Like, for example, that primordium one up in the upper right corner, or right underneath my cursor. That's one I don't have set up in AE, for example. And there are 5 total. And whenever I go back to magic, I'll set this up. I'm just letting this run for now. I haven't spent the time to see if those 5 are good. Once they're good, I'll just shut this off. There's really no reason that I'm aware of to need more of these besides the 5 just to get those essences in the first place, or aspects I should say. So like I said, I did end up setting up something for the molten silicone, which is this LCR right here. I'll talk about that LCR here in a minute. So it is still a little behind, but you can see I've got 1,000 bricks in here. I should probably... Oh, that's why. It should be 4,000. I forgot I shut this off. It was because since I was crafting cables, I didn't want to wait for this to backlog and stay full. So, because this is used for the cable processing, which is the whole reason I moved this over, I did not end up moving polyethylene over, setting up some LCRs for that. So that is still on my single block LV machines, but eventually I will get there. So after I got all that taken care of today, I did decide to go with, like, I started looking ahead in the quest book. It seems to me at this point, and this is the wrong tab, I really need to start, because I want to move towards LUV, mainly because I want the components for the bees to, like, start using the industrial apiaries instead, without having to change the environment. So I did start on, actually I shouldn't say start on, I did craft, where did I put it? Did I lose it? Oh, there it is. The Tier 3 rocket. Look at this guy. Look at this guy. So, it's kind of funny to think how quickly I was able to craft this comparatively to, like, the Tier 1 especially. The Tier 2, there was quite a bit of recipes and some processes I had to set up. Honestly, the Tier 3 was incredibly fast and easy to set up. It was basically just a bunch of patterns. There was no new processes I had to set up for it. Like, say we're to pull up the recipe for it. Tier 3 rocket. Like, all of the stuff is just new patterns. There were only 2 little things that even popped up while I was doing this, so obviously it does have like higher tier materials. Like, we got heavy duty plate, and if we look around, we use those in a bunch of spots. So obviously I had to make patterns for this. There were a couple, I made a ton of patterns. There was only a couple random ones from like the non-main patterns I didn't already have set up from before, which was I didn't have dash plates being made. And then in this rocket control computer Tier 3, this keyboard one, I did have this set up, but I didn't have that assembler in multi-stack mode, which if you don't know, just right click while holding shift with a soldering iron, and that'll make it so you can craft it, basically because you have to have 2 stacks of buttons, or else it'll just jam up if you don't have that multi-stack mode on. And then the other thing, I did kind of band-aid something, which is, so down here, I've never shown this off, because at least I don't think I have, because this was, I believe, before I started doing the daily videos. This LCR group right here is basically crafting our industrial TNT, and I do have had that on passive to make 4,000. What I did not do, for whatever reason, I honestly couldn't tell you why, is have it automatically feed over here, so for ITNT. So these last couple are the new recipes. All the old recipes, if you were to look at them, I've got it pulls in the plate as well as the industrial TNT, which wasn't the brightest move on my part, because it means now like you would have to wait on it, and there's weird jamming issues with this, and I could actually fix this up more, but I'll show off what I mean for that in a second. But so because I went this route, I was like, no, that doesn't make as much sense. So now the ITNT is just filling up an entire input bus and speeds things up a little. So obviously these recipes don't have ITNT, but since these ones do, and they are used for making the Tier 2 rocket, instead of going through and redoing all these patterns, which I should and will, because I wanted to get the rocket done today, I just did a little loop where instead the ITNT is coming over to this drawer again on a higher priority, and then I threw an upgrade on it just in case this fills up, and that just kept this machine from jamming up. So but part of the next step of things I did, I technically just described this in the wrong order. The Tier 3 was technically I did after this next step, which was I set up all the quantum circuits. If we were to look in the quest book, which is it's basically this line, Again, these four, I'll hop over to my clean room real quick to show what I did, because all these need to be done in an IV circuit assembler. So I did have to change up my clean room just a little bit, and wait, I'll show that off here in a second. The qubit wafer, this was what this LCR right here is set up for. And I took the time with this one because I didn't set this up on passive. I do have a level. I did throw it on a level maintainer, but I did look up on the wiki, because I hadn't really messed with it yet, how to properly set up a multi-block for auto crafting. Because like all those guys are big guys where they're crafting like single items, generally not solid and liquid, with the only exception being the blast alloy smelter. So I want to know how to do it properly for recipes with solid and liquid. In the Wikipedia, game's got great support. Like, I can't praise it enough. But the way it works, to kind of show it off. So this is a dual interface facing a dual interface. We basically are going to, or we, not basically, we are using a subnet to complete the craft. What's going on here is, so the dual interface on the main network, you have to make sure it's in blocking mode. You drop your pattern in here. Then it pushes from this interface, because the way auto crafting work is the interface will just push the items into whatever it's connected to. So it pushes from this interface into this little mini subnet's dual interface, which then shoots them off to this storage bus and this fluid storage bus. And then the craft, the only thing you gotta worry about is on the main network one, make sure it's on blocking mode. And then in the subnet dual interface, put in this advanced blocking card. I didn't change any settings and it worked, because it didn't state in the what's it called, wiki, like aside from putting this in here, like having to do anything. But I mean, I've crafted a ton of nano or the quantum circuits already, so it definitely worked. And the last thing I experimented with, I figured this had to be the case, but you output onto the main network, not in the sub network, because it will just push it back into one of these inputs, whether it be a liquid or a solid. And then you do have to power it with a little quartz fiber. So that guy works. It was cool to set this up, and something to keep in, or for me to keep in mind for the future. Real quick, we'll hop over to the clean room, and then there'll be one more process back in that building we were just at that'll go through, and that'll be that. So over in the clean room, I got basically, or not, I need to stop saying that. That's trying to work on my speech as I go. I set up these guys. 4 of these are circuit assemblers, and then there's one advanced assembly machine. This guy, the only thing it was used for was this rocket control computer tier 3. Probably didn't need to make a pattern for this. It does need to be done in a clean room. However, I set all the patterns to start crafting, and then went for a walk earlier. So I wanted this on AutoCraft, but we did this still using the little tin line. I put these above the wire because I use the elevator to get in and out, so this cleans it up a little and makes it a little less claustrophobic. All the remaining blocks in here are either I'm using every channel I can. I have all the different laser engravers set up that like all have recipes for them, and then all the remaining are on the EV circuit assemblers. What I would like to do sometime in the near future is just swap all these to IV circuit assemblers, and then I'm pulling power from this this EU P2P. So that is that. Pretty straightforward. The final thing we did hop back over to where I was, is set up this whole line of LCRs with a bunch of this stuff going on at the end. So what's going on here is this is, at least from here to here, is everything needed to make this polybenzene benzimidazole. Polybenzimidazole. Okay. With kind of a weird thing going on, which I'll get to here in a second. So all these LCRs are just, if we were to go into the craft book, follow this crafting tree, or this quest path, I should say, that'll get us here. These LCRs, skipping the phthalic acid, we got all these are in all these are in there. I was thrown off a little earlier because to get this poly benzene, we need chlorobenzene, which I thought I had set up in the system, but I actually have dichlorobenzene set up in the system, which obviously is not the same thing. Oh, already made it. PBI. Oh, I need to hold 256 sheets. Hold on. So that's gonna be funny. This is where I should read the quest book once in a while. So I held I was looking at this quest, held 125, and was hoping for the skip to trigger, and it did not. The reason I wanted the skip to trigger is because obviously I didn't follow the quest book. I just followed the recipe in my in NEI, I should say. And the only reason I was following the recipe in NEI was so I could craft these guys, which I haven't put on yet, which is the tier 3, or well, I guess it's technically tier 2 thermoset, so we can go to tier 3 planets, which those guys, to craft, we need to have this molten poly stuff. I mean, I'm gonna work on saying that off screen instead of being ridiculous about it. But so I just followed that, and then later on I came back in here. I was like, oh, it's a quest. But I actually did the same thing too with the space race. I set up I basically just looked at the Rocketeer, or the tier 3 rocket plan, just bookmarked all the different items that went into it, set up those patterns, set them all to craft, and like I said, went for a walk. So when I came back, luckily just holding the the tier 3 rocket just triggers all these finishing, because I did not manually trigger any of these guys. So I wonder why. Oh, I know why that ain't. Oh, that's a shame. So I did actually hold this already, and I had the NASA workbench learn it, but I did not hold it after completing this quest, so it's not triggered out. Maybe I'll go back to Mars and kill a boss just so I can get these guys all cleared out. And speaking of clearing out quests, the last thing I was working on right before it, well, I set all this up while I was waiting for the thermo stuff to craft, the thermal clothing. Basically what we got going on here is this one is making chromium dioxide, this one's making chromium trioxide, this guy's making potassium, or potassium. It's making potassium nitrate dust, I had it right. And this final one is making this dust right here, potassium dichromate dust, which is driving me nuts because this thing is definitely run, but I have no idea where that dust is going because I cannot find it. It's not in the system. To the best of my knowledge, I don't use it in any, I don't send it anywhere because I haven't set it up to craft. When you look at the recipe for it, went to the wrong place. The only thing it seems to be good for is either make the phthalic acid or get electrolyzed into potassium and chrome, which this seems like something I would do, but I can't find that process. I don't know where it is, so I'm kind of tempted to just throw a different output bus on here for a moment. Also, you can see the screen flashing from pollution, just so I can hold that dust, but let's see, actually. Let's craft 200 of these real quick while I'm talking. So that is all that. For the future, or for what I plan on working on tomorrow, is now that I have the tier 3 rocket, I do believe the tier 3 rocket can go back to the space race. I believe it could just use my RP1 rocket fluid. I went to the wrong quest. Whatever this is, I have 0 of it done. Interesting. Oh, basic automation. Who needs that? Yeah, it looks like, at least according to this, large oxygen tank, arc lamp, and sleeping in space. Interesting. I definitely want this arc lamp. This is an item I'm really looking forward to, and one of the highlights for me wanting to go to the next tier of planets. But I believe it looks like I can use RP1. I don't see anything else about fuel, unless it's not telling me, but I will, oh, you know what, here we go. All these different fuels. I will look at all that just to make sure I have the right fluid so I don't blow myself up. I don't want to like roll back the server or anything silly. But yeah, let's see if this quest triggers. Yay! Okay, I'm not gonna worry about where that stuff's going for the moment. If I ever need it for anything, like if I decide to change my phthalic acid line, which, just to prove I'm not crazy, is right here. This is where I make the phthalic acid, and I make it with lithium. So not sure what's up with that. Anywho, I'm gonna set up, make sure I have the right fuel, and likely tomorrow when I come back I'll be talking about the different planets I visited. I hope everybody enjoyed the video. I'm gonna get working on that, and I hope you have a good night. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.